Alyosha had been struck by Katerina's beauty when 3 weeks before Dmitri had first brought him at Katerina's request to be introduced to her.
Alyosha had been silent, but he had seen a great deal very clearly. He was struck by Katerina's proud ease, self-confidence, and haughtiness.
He thought her great glowing black eyes were very fine, especially with her pale, even rather sallow, longish face. But in those eyes and in the lines of her lips there was something in which his brother might well be passionately in love.
But which perhaps could not be loved for long.
Well, Sam and I had been friends for a long time. We met in college. And anyway, we hardly get to see each other, anymore, like maybe once or twice a year or something like that. But despite that, we just always tried to keep in contact with one another.
Well, he called out of the blue one day and asked if I could put up a friend of his. It actually worked out because my roommate had just moved out a couple of weeks ago and I was looking for someone to share the rent. It's tough in the city. I was going to put an ad in the paper, but you never know what you'll get.
So Sonia and I, we met for coffee, and then actually, she moved in and we became very good friends.
Things were happening pretty fast. The situation was not good between Fyodor and I. He was spending more and more time with Sam.
Our last argument was over his kicking Sonia out of the house.
She's a mixed-up kid, but very sweet. I don't know how anyone could treat his family like that.
What about the stolen money?
Well, I'd only just heard about that. Dmitri told me that you asked him about it. That's the first I've heard of it. It was only a couple of $100.
250.
Whatever. I'm sure Sonia didn't take it. That's impossible. And if she did, she certainly never gave any of it to Dmitri.
How do you know that?
Well, Dmitri and I began to see a lot of each other.
Listen, I didn't plan it. It just happened, okay? That's another reason why I couldn't stay with Fyodor.
Well, if Sonia had been giving him money, I would have known. He would have told me. Anyway, after Sam moved in, Dmitri hardly ever saw her.
Then Sonia told me that Fyodor's girlfriend had broken up with him and had taken up with Dmitri. Try to figure that one out. It didn't take very long for them to move in together. It's kind of suspicious, sort of like a soap opera. What could Dmitri have in common with a woman like that? Well, quite a bit actually, if you think about it. I mean, I've never actually met her, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist to see what's going on.
Sonia and I got along really well. She was, we became friends. She's a really sweet girl, and she's a really good listener because I can be a chatterbox sometimes, as you can probably tell. But yeah, it was really nice. Sam would come over, and I'd make dinner, and they had this really nice relationship.
He was like a big brother for her, actually. He was very, very protective of her. I think in a way he felt responsible for the fact that Sonia lost, she lost the touch with her father.
Her real brother is kind of mixed up. Although I have to say I only met him once. He came by to see Sonia about money, I think. Anyway, I only met him briefly, and he seemed nice enough. I'd heard some stories about him, but I guess I'd already had my mind made up.
It was an incredibly awkward situation. I mean, Jennifer and I totally fell for each other, right away. For my part, I didn't think that could happen to me anymore. I'd been in my share of bad relationships and had gotten pretty cynical, and I thought she felt the same.
It was also a lot tougher for her, given the situation with my dad at the time. I had wanted to be the one to break it to my father, to save Jennifer from that unpleasant experience, but, she insisted.
One thing about Jen, she's a very loving, very sweet woman, but also very headstrong and very stubborn. I tried to talk to her into having both of us go and meet him at the same time, to tell him. But she wouldn't hear of that.
Fine. I realized it's something she needed to do on her own, so I let her have her way.
as far as Sonia's feelings for Sam, as I said, she's really shy, and but I think that something was going on. I mean, like, she's never said anything about it, but I think she has some sort of feelings for him. And I tried to call her on it once. I asked her what she thought of Sam, and she turned bright red.
And she just said that I was crazy.
Now, no one told me until later that she was his half sister. I mean, how could I have known? But that doesn't change anything as far as I'm concerned. I still think she felt something for him. I'm sure she'd never act on it. She's such an introvert.
Katerina. Yeah. I like her a lot. I still do. She, we had a brief relationship. I guess it was her real first boyfriend. But, you know, it just didn't work out. And about a year or so later, we became close friends.
It was nice because kind of the sexual tension that existed between us was kind of in the past.
But I could kind of tell she still liked me, but I tried not to lead on to that. I didn't pay much attention to it. But her and Sonia became good friends. You know, Jen finally arranged to meet with my dad to tell him about us. You know, she was nervous. Hell, I was nervous. I didn't know how he would react. I mean, I knew he wasn't going to be happy about it. And he wasn't. Jennifer and I went to that cafe by my dad's apartment. I tried to talk her into letting me go with her, but she refused. I had coffee and waited for her as she went to tell him.
I could actually see them through the window.
I saw the whole thing. It's weird. They were both very emotional. And honestly, I was terrified that he'd do something to her.
But it turned into a big shouting match, and she stormed out. I was really relieved when she came back to the cafe, but she was shaking.
I guess that's the night it happened.
She told me what happened. It took her 20 minutes to calm down. And all the while, I could see my father pacing back and forth in his apartment. He was talking on the phone and gesturing and yelling.
Jen she just sat with her back to the window. She didn't want to see him ever again, under no circumstances. She was sipping a cup of tea, but her hands were trembling. She nearly spilled it each time she raised it to her lips. I've never seen her like that. She was a frightened little girl.
Yeah, it was that Thursday night. Sonia and I had planned to have Sam over. Nothing special. We all got together every once in a while. We'd order takeout or rent a movie, you know, just something casual. I think it was Sam's way of checking in on Sonia, you know, making sure she was doing okay.
I even think that it was her father's way of checking up on her, you know, without being too obvious about it.
That her father was concerned about her.
Yeah.
You knew Sam for a long time. Did he ever mention that he was an epileptic?
Yeah. Yeah, I knew. I think he was really embarrassed about it, but, you know, I heard that he'd had other seizures before.
Tell me about that night.
As I said, we ordered some Chinese food and we were sitting around watching a movie, and suddenly Sam started shaking and making a funny noise. First I thought he was just fooling around, and then I thought he was choking.
And when Sonia actually had gone to the bathroom,
She heard this noise and she came running out, and then at that point we realized what was happening, so we called the ambulance.
Well, as I said, my seizures are generally pretty mild, and within a couple of hours I start to feel better.
But this one, I've only had a few of these in my lifetime. This is where it takes me more than a few hours to fully recover. I mean, I was kind of expecting to have a seizure. I mean, you can't really predict when they're going to come. They're kind of cyclical. At least mine are.
I know it's strange to say, and I don't think that many epileptics will be able to say this, but I felt one coming.
And I did. It took me a full day to recover. And that's when they told me about Fyodor. I mean, I wish I could have been there.
It probably wouldn't have happened.
It might never have happened.